The media has long downplayed and softened President Biden's decades-long history of falsehoods, as most recently evidenced by a euphemism-filled New York Times report that referred to outright fabrications and lies as folklore stories with factual edges shaved off. The Times finally discovered Biden's trouble with the truth on Tuesday but was widely mocked for using mealy-mouthed language in the report. The Times noted Biden has lied about being raised in the Puerto Rican community at home, his academic record, his life story, being arrested when protesting civil rights, being arrested in South Africa, pinning a silver star on a Navy captain, and even the timeline when he rode on Amtrak to visit his sick mother, among other things. He's told other unbelievable stories that the Times failed to mention, such as the claim he confronted a gang leader named Corn Pop in the 1960s. But instead of flatly calling Biden a liar, the Times said he embellished narratives, sometimes only loosely based on the facts, to weave together his political identity. The New York Times was mocked Tuesday for euphemism-stuffed report on President Biden's falsehoods. The New York Times was mocked Tuesday for euphemism-stuffed report on President Biden's falsehoods. Reuters/Shannon Stapleton/file photo Getty Images. White House feeling trepidation over Biden's 80th birthday, will downplay celebration, Politico report. Mr. Biden's folksiness can veer into folklore, with dates that don't quite add up and details that are exaggerated or wrong, the factual edges shaved off to make them more powerful for audiences, the Times reported. The Times also claimed former President Trump lied constantly and Biden's fictions are nowhere near that scale, and took the Republicans' pounce approach by declaring, Biden's critics have seized on his falsehoods to depict him as either a purposeful liar or a forgetful old man. Some of Biden's dishonest statements are political, such as the time he claimed the economy had 0% inflation during July when it was actually 8.5%. Other times, they're wildly exaggerated tidbits about his personal life. He often botches key details, misremembers dates, and sometimes seems to just make up or embellish tales about his past. He has falsely claimed he was appointed to the Naval Academy, dishonestly said he was arrested in South Africa, misleadingly bragged he was arrested during the civil rights movement in the United States, inaccurately claimed he was once a professional truck driver, and oddly claimed he was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home. Biden's lies are sometimes repeated multiple times, often growing bigger with each exaggerated version of the actual event. He declared this week that everything was ruined from the basement to the attic and we almost lost a couple firefighters when lightning struck his home 15 years ago. Placeholder. New York Times mocked for euphemism-stuffed report on Biden falsehoods, folklore, factual edges shaved off. President Biden once inaccurately claimed he was arrested in South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela. President Biden once inaccurately claimed he was arrested in South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela. Photo by Aaron Scott Poole/Getty Images. However, the Associated Press at the time reported that no one was injured in the small fire that was contained to the kitchen and under control within 20 minutes. Greg Price, a senior digital strategist for X Strategies, put a spotlight on Biden's fire falsehood by sharing footage of the apparent exaggeration. He believes Biden has spent his entire career lying but regularly gets a pass from the mainstream media. The reason he gets away with it is because, contrary to what Chris Cillizza once said, reporters do in fact root for a side, Price told Fox News Digital, referring to the CNN's reliably liberal Cillizza famously claiming that reporters don't root for a side. Period. Despite Cillizza's often lampooned 2016 claim, many seem to think the media favors Democrats. Alyssa Farah Griffin, who plays the role of token conservative on ABC News The View, recently claimed Biden's constant gaffes are endearing because people do make mistakes. Bill Maher defends Biden from complaints of his age following Where's Jackie? Gaffe. Fox News contributor and Come On, Man author Joe Concha believes coverage would be whatever exceeds 24/7's pious outrage if a Republican said something so demonstrably false as Biden's claim that everything was ruined when his kitchen caught fire. Placeholder. Instead, it's silence of the lambs, Concha told Fox News Digital. He constantly lies with impunity and for no apparent reason. He said he finished at the top of his law school class. He finished near the bottom. He had to drop out of the 1988 presidential race due to plagiarism. He keeps saying he was arrested during civil rights protests. He said he was arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela. He insists inflation is at or near 0%. He says we're not in a recession. And he says the border is closed, Kongcha continued. Yet, fact-checkers either ignore the lies or try to defend them. Biden, in resurfaced 2017 clip, recounts bizarre Razor Unchained showdown with bad dude gang leader Corn Pop. Media Research Center founder Brent Bozell was among the critics of the New York Times piece, blasting Biden as a pathological liar that can't be saved by the left-wing newspaper. Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer agreed, saying the Times piece was the most cleaned up, soft landing a journalist can spin on behalf of any politician. In the real world, the headline would be Biden frequently caught lying, Fleischer wrote. The Times is hardly the only journalism institution willing to overlook, downplay, or soften Biden's history of telling tall tales. White House feeling trepidation over Biden's 80th birthday, will downplay celebration, Politico report. The Washington Post recently declared, after 4 years of a presidency that swamped Americans with a gusher of false and misleading claims, the Joe Biden era has offered a return to a more typical pattern when it comes to a commander-in-chief and his relationship with the facts, one that features frequent spin and obfuscation or exaggeration, with the occasional canard. The mainstream media's fact-checker industry has regularly turned a blind eye. PolitiFact, a product of the Poynter Institute, appears more concerned with making sure critics of Biden are held accountable than the White House itself. PolitiFact is more concerned with making sure critics of President Biden are held accountable than the White House itself, according to a recent study. PolitiFact is more concerned with making sure critics of President Biden are held accountable than the White House itself, according to a recent study. AP Photo/Susan Walsh. During Biden's first 20 months in office, there were 58 pieces published by PolitiFact to fact-check the president compared to a staggering 338 pieces designed to fact-check Biden critics, according to the Media Research Center's Newsbusters. CNN's fact-checker Daniel Dale, who has gone weeks and months at a time without publishing articles on Biden claims, wrote earlier this year that, in 2021, unlike his uniquely dishonest predecessor, Biden did not bury fact-checkers in a daily avalanche of serial falseness. Biden never came close to making a dozen false claims in a single speech, let alone 5 dozen false claims in one address, as Trump once did. 3 ways Joe Biden lost credibility with voters and what it means for the midterms. New York Times fact-checker Linda Chu was one of the authors of the piece, informing readers that Biden has embellished narratives throughout the course of his career. Newsbusters executive editor Tim Graham noticed that despite Chu clearly being aware of Biden's fabrications, she hasn't exactly covered them. Chu is the paper's designated fact-checker. So if Biden is habitually spinning yarns that unravel, she must be busy with Biden checks, right? No. She hasn't fact-checked Biden since August 20, 2021 on the Afghanistan withdrawal fiasco under an extremely mild headline, clarifying Biden's take of evacuation, Graham wrote. A peek at her archive of articles since then includes at least 14 fact-checks of Republicans and/or conservatives. This 14-to-1 imbalance in Target's election would remind you of PolitiFact, which makes sense, because that's where Chu worked before joining the Times, Graham continued. This dramatically imbalanced pattern of targeting explains why conservatives are hostile to fact-checkers, not to facts.